Have you ever wanted to know more about the world around you? Have you ever wanted to know how others experience the world around you? Welcome to Eye to Eye, the show that starts a conversation and a path to learning. Hi, I'm your host, Devan, and this is the show Eye to Eye. Today I'm gathered with great minds to discuss a topic and learn more from others' points of views. Today's discussion will be focused on masks worn in public. The way the shows work is that we will ask questions to learn from each other and bring awareness to modern issues. Now I would like to introduce the cast introduce themselves and how they feel about the topic of today's subject.
Hi, I'm Kariyana Mosley. I am a junior here at Sam Houston. And how I feel about today's topic is I think that masks are important. I definitely think that if you don't wear a mask, it's kind of selfish. No, it's definitely selfish. Because there are people around you who are at high risk, who are very vulnerable. So those are my thoughts.
My name is Michael Onyeugo. I'm also a junior here at Sam Houston State University, and I definitely feel like masks are important. I'm definitely pro-mask just because, despite all the political things that we went through as a nation with masks versus no masks, the reality of it is we're in a pandemic. So that being said, the masks are very, very, very necessary.
Hi, my name is Bertrand and I'm a senior here at Sam Houston State, and I'm definitely pro-mask because I feel as though they are something that we didn't know we needed for a bit because things were put on pause, and there are people getting sick left and right, and regardless of if there's a vaccine or some type of help out there, we still need to take some type of precautions to reduce the cases.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Summer. I'm a senior here at Sam Houston, and I guess you could say that I'm the anti-masker of the group. I think that, there's a time and a place, and I think that there's a right time to have a lockdown, all that stuff, so.
Now that we've gotten the chance to learn more about where our cast stands on the topic, I will start the conversation and they will take it from there. Cast, feel free to ask each other questions and I will act as a mediator during the discussion. So if anything gets out of hand or too far off topic, I will steer the conversation back. Today's first question will be, how serious was the mask usage at the beginning of the pandemic to you?
I think for me, at first it wasn't that serious just because of the nature of where I was at, because Corona started what was it, February, March?
March.
Yeah. At the time I was just coming back from Padre, no gonna lie. So when we came back and heard the news, it was well, okay, I feel fine. I asked my group, they was fine. They was yeah, we all feel fine. So at that very moment, wearing a mask really didn't factor in that much. But Corona got worse and mutated, went global, did numbers, so naturally here I am with a mask.
I honestly feel like mask usage, in the beginning, I won't say it wasn't important to me, but it kind of had to be knocked into my skull as to how important it would be to wear one. I almost felt like I couldn't even wake up without having to put my mask on. There are things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do the same way without it. It was definitely helpful in certain situations. And yeah, so that's how I feel about that.
I think it was extremely important for me, especially because I have so many people in my close circle, in my family who are high risk, and also I lived with people who were in the medical industry, you know what I'm saying? So it was definitely drilled, into me to wear a mask. And I think that it should have been important for other people in the beginning because maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be here.
You're right.
Yeah, it was super important to me at the beginning too, but I remember being confused because there was a time where they were telling us not to wear masks because they were reserved for medical professionals. And so, eventually whenever, they told us that we do need to wear masks, I wore masks in public, not outdoors, obviously grocery stores, like high risk places like that.
I've been seeing people double mask and triple mask recently. So
Yeah.
like, what does that help?
Man, honestly, I didn't know about like double masking until like I came to class one day. One of my professors had on, double mask, and I was like, that's interesting. Then, I saw on the news that they were suggesting that we double mask, and then a week later they were saying we may have to triple mask. So, I think that, and I didn't. Now, mind you, you guys have Google at your fingertips. Please use it. I am no medical professional. However, I think that what it is that it lessens the chance of creating that, the droplets in the air, the particles, exactly. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. We've all seen those diagrams where, they're comparing all the risk of getting COVID if, depending on which person's wearing a mask and all that stuff.
Yeah, they'll have, for example, like one person wearing no mask,
Yeah.
and then another person across from them wearing one, and they'll just say, you can be literally the stop of the spread, quote unquote, if you just wear the mask. Being the odd one out really will, I guess, get you ostracized in a sense. So
seeing those diagrams like that throughout this pandemic, does that scare you guys at all?
I won't say it necessarily scares me because I'm used to seeing stuff like that anyway. It's kind of like, why on earth would you look at a door that says do not enter and then push the door? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then an alarm goes off and you're like, wait, what's that noise? No. Okay, so what that is to me is it's necessary to have those things because some people don't do very well with listening. So they need something visible that gives them an idea that, hey, maybe we should follow some of the protocol if we don't want to follow all of the protocol. Because at the end of the day, everybody's going to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But it really shouldn't be like that, though.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if we really want to, like, navigate out of the pandemic, we should all be on the same page, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We
should see eye to eye.
Lives. It's like, it's caused too much for us just to be like, oh, we're just going to do our own thing. We're not even going to follow the protocol.
And, right.
So
and
it's like, I'm just following orders.
Right.
Like you said, I'm not a doctor. My major is software engineering.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely, I'm not an expert on this stuff. So that's why I listen to the experts.
And that's the thing. It's not, these diagrams and these informationals and all that stuff, it's not just coming out of, people aren't just pulling it out of their behinds.
No.
Like, these are, these are coming from medical professionals. And the fact that when the virus, for lack of a better term, was presented to us, I guess, when it was an epidemic, they didn't know what the heck this was. They didn't. The medical professionals were like, "We're stumped." So here's the best advice that we can offer you. Why wouldn't you take that?
And see, another thing was they kept on updating the guidelines because they were finding out more and more information about it. Because when it first happened, it was in late November. So it really was a joke at first. But now it's kind of like, hey, regardless of what it is people really will only do things that they have to do when they know now is the time. Some people don't really find out that things are detrimental to them until they lose something. Yeah, and a lot of people had to go through loss in order to understand that this is something serious. Like, for example, there are some people who got the coronavirus and after they quarantined, they didn't even want to leave their houses, They didn't even want people to come near them who had even been outside, even if it was just to go buy more masks at the store when they became available for purchase. And it really sucks that it does have to be that way.
It's traumatic.
I don't want to be, I don't want something like that shoved down my throat. Because I already know, if they say that this isn't like the flu, the flu comes and goes, but this is something that it's been a year. And some change since it started. So it's like...
And new strands.
Yeah, new strands are out.
Right.
Now they're, even with the vaccines out, there's still people who are high risk and there's still people who are spreading the stuff.
Super spreading.
And I like that super spreading. But yeah, it's really serious, and it sucks that it has to be this way.
I'll tell you what, I had a family member, a close relative, they didn't believe in COVID. They were like, you believe in this? Like, what? Whatever. Until their spouse was hospitalized, almost lost his life, you know? And then it was like, oh, what do I do now? Then the panic erupts. You know what I'm saying? Like, and why should it take all of that for you to, like, you know what I'm saying, get on the good foot, you know?
Well, we all had some interesting things to say about masks in the beginning to now.
And I'm like, you're giving us the gift of death? Thank you so much.
Welcome back to Eye to Eye. Today we're discussing the topic of mask and anti-mask. In the first segment, I asked the question to the cast to start the discussion. Now we'll allow one of the cast members to start the discussion on their own, and I will again be there to moderate in the discussion if it gets out of hand or off topic. If no one has any questions, I have questions to keep the conversation going. So who would like to start?
I can go.
Okay.
Okay, so how do you guys feel about people walking around in certain parts of public without their masks, period, and being able to enter stores and not being, questioned?
It's infuriating. To me, it is infuriating because when you walk into a store without a mask, you're basically saying, F y'all. I don't care about anybody in this space. I do not care. And that's exactly what because if you walk into a store and I'm in a store and you don't have a mask on, I'm going to look at you crazy. Because that's exactly what you're exuding, craziness. Like, you are putting people at risk. You are putting people at risk.
Yeah.
It's selfish.
I know for me, like when we first started, like I said, masks never really like factored that much into like my daily life. But like Bertie said, we're like a year and change into this, so it's like if I'm not with the program now, I don't want to wait until it's too late and it affects one of my loved ones.
Right.
So I'm definitely in the store, masked up. Like if I see people like without a mask, it's just kind of like, like it's not a hatred thing, not like a want to see you dead. It's more like a I hope your family's protected. You know what I'm saying? I hope all y'all are protected because it looks like you're ignorant.
And what I could add to that is how would y'all feel if you knew the people you were seeing without the masks had the vaccine already?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Would you be as upset at them, or would you feel like you could just walk past them without even, making eye contact?
I mean, scientifically speaking, they receive the vaccine, they can't catch corona, nor can they receive it.
But that's after the 2 doses.
After the 2 doses. So if they've had the 2 doses and they're in the store without a mask, I guess you have that liberty. You know what I'm saying? But
Would you wear a mask if you got vaccinated?
if I got vaccinated?
Yeah. Would you still be wearing a mask in public?
Probably.
Okay.
I'd be a lot more frugal about it.
Okay.
Maybe I won't carry a mask everywhere I go. But I know that I have the vaccine, so I know I'm straight.
Okay.
I would definitely wear a mask because not only, it's also like even if I was vaccinated, I had the 2 shots, I would still go in with a mask because it eases the minds of people who are not vaccinated and are at high risk. You know what I'm saying? Like because nobody's gonna go into a store and if they see somebody are you vaccinated? To everybody, and you don't know. So just to ease the mind, I would definitely wear a mask.
I don't think I would, to be honest. I don't think I would, because if someone did come up to me requesting me to put a mask on, I would just tell them, hey, I've been vaccinated. I don't think, there's nothing that I would think that you have to be worried about, right?
Do you have proof on hand?
Because anybody could say it.
That's a good question.
You definitely gotta have a receipt or something.
Right.
Yeah, because usually for COVID vaccines, I think you have to make an appointment. So I could, if you had the appointment confirmation, you could pull that out. But that is a good question, though. how do you differentiate between people who are vaccinated not wearing a mask and people who just don't want to wear a mask?
And also, unfortunately, with documentation, it is so easy for it to be forged. It is so easy for it to be, photoshopped or something like that. So honestly, I don't trust people. So like anybody can tell me, yeah, I got vaccinated and here's my card. I'll be like, oh, that's nice. Can you lift your mask up? Like, so.
See, for me, I feel like regardless of if you have it or not, it would still set a good example for the people who don't have it. Because, you could be walking around here scot-free because you got the vaccine, but then there's somebody else who may have, recently just overcame quarantining, and they still have to wait a little bit before they can get the vaccine. I mean, I don't know too much about that just yet, but I do know that when they see that, they're going to be like, dang, man, like, is it really just me? So many people feel alone in this, even though, we're all experiencing it at whether it's different paces or at the same rate. Not everybody will be considered in this, but also at the same time, you kind of have to think about it from a standpoint of, people really learn from what they see, what they hear, and even what they don't see. And I feel like it's still something that should be done just until it seems safer than it seems right now. Because, we just had the 100% lift, I actually went back home to Houston recently and I saw that, there was like 11.8% cases positive at least, but still then that doesn't mean much because there are still some people who probably haven't even had any documented information that are probably sick walking among us right now. So I still feel like we should set the example even if we had it.
Okay, so then my question to you is, as a student that lives in Huntsville, was it a good idea for Greg Abbott to open up Texas 100% and lift the mask mandate, or y'all think that the state should have stayed closed?
I feel like we didn't necessarily have to be on a lockdown type of thing, but I feel like we could have waited a little bit longer. We just got new doses of the vaccine. So I feel like more results need to go in. More people need to feel comfortable. I mean, maybe they could give out some surveys. They like to give us the census every so often. Maybe they could come up with another survey, just to ask people, hey, maybe like, how comfortable do you feel? Gather a consensus so that everybody's not questioning who's out there.
I actually think the opposite. I think a year-long lockdown was probably a little bit too long and excessive, actually. I actually favor trusting the public to make their own health decisions, even if it has to do with, the welfare of the public.
That's interesting. I absolutely do not agree with this man. I think he is foolish. And the fact that the day before he announced this, it was on the news that the 2 new strands were found in Texas. There have been cases of, people testing positive with the 2 new strains. And then the next day, this man tweets. And it's like, I have a surprise for y'all. Like, he's giving us some gift. And I'm like, you're giving us the gift of death? Thank you so much. That's exactly what it feels like.
Well, it is optional. He's listing the mandate, but, a lot of restaurants can still require and enforce masks.
Yes, but look how hard it is now to enforce. Like, people are walking in with a big sign on the window. It says, if you don't wear your mask, you're not allowed inside or whatever. They still walk in without a mask. And when somebody tells them something, they give them a hard time. How much harder will it be now?
Yeah, I do think that's ridiculous. Throwing a fit over, the enforcement of masks is kind of, we need to look up and realize that we're adults here.
Very questionable.
Yeah, that's ridiculous to me. Just wear the mask.
Questionable to say the least.
Yeah.
But piggybacking off of you, that was just an awful decision. Like, awful from top to bottom. I really don't like how, there wasn't a lead up to this. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
Bernie said, we could have had a survey to see like who's vaccinated, who hasn't been vaccinated, who's been all right for the entire time. But there's none of that. He literally came to Twitter, said everything's up, have a good summer.
Right.
You know?
And he did this right before spring break, which, if y'all remember, it got bad during this time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like it's like you just throwing us back into the fire. But and it's like, and I understand what you're saying, that a year in lockdown is horrible. It's been horrible, right? However, how much like if we continue to not follow rules and not wear a mask and all of these things, then how much longer do we we're just gonna still be here, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna still, like, after a while, when will he announce that we have to go on lockdown again? Because it's an option, but who, you know what I'm saying? Like, majority of people are not gonna want to wear their mask.
Very true. That's good thoughts that y'all had on that question. Welcome back to Eye to Eye. In this segment, we will review what we've learned from others' perspectives and what we could all take away from this experience. So what did y'all take away from this experience?
I definitely learned a lot more about myself than I thought I would. I learned what not to take for granted, and I'm still learning every day what not to take for granted. For example, just being able to go anywhere.
Yeah. And when you talk, when you ask the question, what do you feel about this experience, or what do you take away from this experience? Are you talking about the panel discussion, or are you talking about the pandemic?
The panel discussion and the pandemic. What have you learned? What have you discussed? What have you thought of while you've been with someone who has opposite opinions of you, or even a different viewpoint than you?
Right. So this is my first time actually speaking in person to somebody who has like opposing, views in me, which is very interesting. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. But it doesn't change anything for me. I think that I know that I will still be wearing a mask. I know that I will still, follow strict guidelines and stuff, because there are people close to me that are extremely high risk. So that's what.
I think for me, nothing's new. It's still a pandemic.
Right.
Thankfully, by the grace of God, I felt healthy throughout the entire year of 2020.
Yeah.
I still feel healthy. So I'm definitely not gonna take that for granted. Speaking about the pandemic, it's crazy to see how people think. You know what I'm saying? Like, the anti-maskers, how social media plays into this.
Yeah.
And how the government screwed us over. But, all in all, I think that this whole pandemic just taught me that I need to leave America. That's all.
Hey, we respect that. I think one thing I've learned from talking with you guys is that I thought my arguments were pretty sensible, and the way I viewed masks in general were pretty sensible. I thought I was being really reasonable, but I realized that there's more I need to consider. Like the new strains, I hadn't really worked that into there. So I think this just taught me how to be even more sensible and make more sensible arguments and be smarter with a mask in general.
Awesome. What about you, Bertie?
I mean, I will add that it has been an experience. I've definitely seen a lot of people come and go with different opinions. And I've just had to remember that, I believe what I believe. I'm not going to try and force anybody to believe what I believe. And I don't feel like, I feel like, someone might try and project whatever they believe onto me. But, I have to stay in my lane and know that if I want to be safe, I'm going to take the necessary precautions. So,
for sure,
do that with everything.
Yes.
So do you think that y'all's experiences as people of color have been different than non-people of color?
Definitely.
I definitely believe they do, because, there was a point when we literally had protests every day. And with that, we were in a pandemic
at the same time.
and a lot of, inevitable police brutality came into play. And it was as if the pandemic didn't even exist for a bit. And it was still hard to go outside, looking to my left and my right, just when I want to go check the mailbox or something like that, in the midst of a pandemic.
It's definitely interesting to see how radicalized the public was because of this pandemic. Because like Brady said, we had the protests in the summer, and then conversely, we saw the anti-vaxxers or like the anti-vax people actually protest against masks and saying things like this infringing on my rights and I feel oppressed and woo. So it's like just to see that parallel go on like within an entire pandemic. It's really interesting to see how everything went down.
But what was interesting is that these anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers and stuff, their protests were not, how should I say, criminalized, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Like police didn't pull up and
Right.
They
didn't, what'd you say?
They were excused.
They were excused. And we were fighting for justice, for basic human rights. And they came in deep with that. Now, I was in Houston during the protest, so I went to every protest that I could, and there were some every day. So I was out there every day, scared for my life, yes, because there's a pandemic happening, and then and then I'm black, and then I'm a female, and then I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Targets. It feels like there's targets on our backs. This has been very traumatic. This has been so traumatic. And I feel like the stories that we have to tell our kids and our grandchildren, they'll be like, you lied. This is wild. Is that in the history book? It should very much well be, because
no, I think nothing will top this entire pandemic timeline. The top event that happened was a Capitol riot.
Listen.
I know it has nothing to do with masks, but like literally the fact that happened during a pandemic. I'm speechless. I'm still speechless, really.
Where do y'all think the trajectory of mental health for people of color is going throughout the pandemic?
I feel like it's gone everywhere.
In the gutter.
Yeah.
Because, you've got some people who aren't used to being trapped inside, and then people who are already used to being inside trying to, flip the script. And it's like, dang, I don't get to live my life the way I want to.
Yeah, for sure. And I can tell you, for somebody who struggles with mental illnesses, it's definitely been hard. I would definitely say during this pandemic. So,
okay, it's great to hear y'all experiences from the pandemic and how y'all live life. But that's going to be the end of the show. Thank you for watching Eye to Eye, where we open the conversation to help bring individuals closer and get a perspective on how others in the world around them.